All right, we are going to get started. It's 12 o'clock, right on time. We aim to let everybody go before 1 p.m. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am Humaira Ahmed. I'm the founder and CEO here at Locelle. And today we are going to talk about the power of mentorship. We have seen at Locelle firsthand how mentorship alone can help with creating a gender diverse leadership pipeline. And we cannot wait to introduce our amazing panelists, share a little bit about who we are, and how you can leverage mentorship for career growth. So just a little bit of the agenda, who we are and why we exist, what we have learned, the power of mentorship panel with our amazing speakers here. We have Stephanie Redivo, Noreen Syed, Pradeepa, Dhanasekar, and myself. And we'll do a Q&A as well as a special gift. So it's a little bit of an announcement to our community. And then we'll wrap up. So why did we even start Locelle? So Locelle actually turned 5 years just this month. So we're really proud of the work that we do, because I can tell you the work of creating equitable workplaces is really, really hard. At first, I started Locelle because of this stat. Just even knowing I have been a woman working in the tech industry for now over 15 years, just seeing firsthand and myself, women quit their tech jobs mid-career a lot of times. So 56% number is big enough. You can't have the talent leave at that stage, because then how are we going to really develop that diverse leadership pipeline? So that's the context of why we started what we did. So today we are a global platform to help people advance their careers. It's a one-stop solution for women and underrepresented groups, providing mentorship, leadership, coaching, and community. So far, we have served over 600 people and facilitated over 2,500 hours of mentorship. And our goal at Locelle is to really help people navigate challenges, explore opportunities to really unlock their career potential. And our mission has always been the same. I know some of you may have known about us over the last few years, perhaps even longer since we started. Our mission has never changed, which is to be part of the solution in creating equitable workplaces for people and deliver programming for today's workforce. Workplaces have changed. Companies talk about diversity, inclusion. People are a lot more open to new ideas. However, we find that leaders and just people in general, like there needs to be that systemic change, also newer, like innovative ideas and approaches to how we deliver content. We have also learned the top reasons people get mentorship. It's to gain clarity, to build confidence, stepping into leadership, and most importantly, how do I become a great manager or leader, which I think is fantastic. It's coming from a place of wanting to serve people, improve job performance through shared experiences and relevant tools. Mentorship has also really helped from what we have seen. We have served thousands of people and 66% of them come from underrepresented groups. So we have seen progression for their careers and have seen that, it can help change the face of leadership. Again, equitable access to knowledge, people, and skills, because sometimes we may not have access to people who look like us or who have had shared experiences, that we can learn from, or relevant experiences, as well as, timely guidance and support and tools. So with that said, we thought we would put together our most popular event, which is, again, the power of mentorship, how people, managers, individuals can really lean into mentorship and to accelerate their career growth. So we have 3 incredible speakers here. We have Noreen Syed, Stephanie Redivo, and Pradeepa Dhanasekar to really share their experiences. I'm going to take a minute to spotlight for everybody and introduce them. Okay, so we have spotlight and perfect. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Stephanie Redivo, who is going to be moderating the panel. And I've known Stephanie for actually a long time. And Stephanie has been a mentor of mine. She's actually one of those people that I remember when I first started Locelle. I was at this event, and I reluctantly put my hand up to ask for to be connected with somebody who worked in the DE&I space. And Stephanie at the time worked at SAP in her EDI role. And she was actually somebody who put her hand up to the stranger and said, I want to mentor you. I wasn't even asking for a mentor, but she just offered that, and what a gift. And I was like, oh my, like I still think about it, and what a gift. Like, how many people have this opportunity? So thank you, Stephanie, for being my personal mentor for all these years. And actually with Stephanie, as we've gone through pivots with Locelle too, she was somebody I remember at the peak of COVID. I was like, Steph, how do we continue to make this impact? I don't know, like how we can do. And she said, well, mentorship is so, hard to do well. But if you do this well, I think it can make a great impact. She was actually, again, one of those people who really helped me start this mentorship platform. So thank you, Stephanie, for doing all of that you do. I'm going to go ahead and do your formal bio. So Stephanie is the first Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Director at TransLink and has over 20 years experience in software education, change management, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. She has been at TransLink since July of 2020. And since that time, she has developed a 3-year framework, implemented EDI objectives into yearly performance reviews, created employee resource groups, ran their first inclusion survey, and implemented EDI training for managers. Before joining TransLink, Stephanie was the Senior Director of Inclusive Culture at SAP, and she ran the first Global Edge certification. She inspires employees to be their best selves and do their best work through inclusive behavior. And she also has a great passion for baking delicious cookies, which I have had the pleasure to have. So welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for all that you do. Over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Humaira. So grateful and honored to kind of walk us through today. I have the privilege to sort of work, live, and play on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Part of my reconciliation journey is really learning from other Indigenous authors. So I really recommend 5 Little Indians by Michelle Good as a book for your journey and learning about reconciliation. So today we have 2 amazing speakers to hear from. So I'm going to now read their bios. So I'm going to start with Noreen. Noreen is a partner with IBM Consulting at IBM Canada. She leads a practice team focusing on helping Canadian organizations accelerate adoption of data and AI, analytics, automation, D365 CRM, ERP, and emerging tech like blockchain and quantum to drive impactful transformations that are a catalyst of their innovation, customer service, business values, and operational efficiency goals. Previously, Noreen has held other roles at Microsoft Canada, building on her passion for customer centricity to drive customer digital transformations, problem solving via cloud technology, and driving cloud business strategy. She's a computer engineer with management sciences option, graduate from the University of Waterloo. And outside of work, Noreen is a mom, traveler, and loves staying active. So please, let's give a big round of applause for Noreen in your reaction. Yay, high five. And then we have Pradeepa. And Pradeepa is the Director of Engineering at Able, a product strategy and development company. Pradeepa was born and raised in India and has had a passion for playing with computers since childhood, which led her to study software engineering. She joined IBM as an intern and worked with Cognizant for around 7 years. Pradeepa has enjoyed many different positions throughout her career as a programmer, analyst, BI lead, test engineer, engineering manager, and now director. Most of Pradeepa's work was around analytics and information management and web development. Skilled in traditional as well as modern DW and BI, she has worked on all of the phases of a project: analysis, development, QA, project management, and business development. She also has a life outside of work too, just like Noreen. And she loves spending time being a mother to her 7-year-old son, whom she's learned a lot from, and cooking. Parenthood for sure, very humbling experience, I think, for all of us. All right, so a couple things. We're gonna dive in. We have sort of some questions. We're gonna go back and forth between Noreen and Pradeepa. And please, if you do have any questions and you want to put it in the chat, please do. It's really, it's great. Let's pretend we're sort of all in the room together and kind of try to make this sort of that we're face to face, even virtual. Okay, so Noreen, the first question is over to you. So as I've read your bio, you have an expansive and impressive background in comp sci and leading teams. So tell me, how has mentorship helped your career?
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And first of all, I want to say thank you to Locelle and for you for having me on the panel and kind of sharing my experience. So thank you for that. I would say the concept of mentorship starts really, really early, and maybe perhaps earlier in life, we don't call it mentorship, right? I think when I was in grade 9 or 10, it's around the time my parents started hassling, hey, after high school, it's college or university. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I started talking to family and friends, really kind of saying, hey, what's good to get into? What should I do? I remember this one particular uncle in South Asian communities, everybody's an uncle, even if they're not related to you. But I remember talking to him, and he actually, funny enough, at the time was working for IBM and said, hey, whatever you do, try to go into the field of computer studies. It's going to be huge. It's a big deal. We're talking somewhere, I think, late 1990s. Okay, so just date myself. And he's like, hey, that's what you should do. And I would say that was my first probably experience at some sort of a mentorship conversation without realizing that's what it is, right? Fast forward, I think from moving on therewards, there were many other people that in my life, or maybe as students or high schoolers today might call it, role models. And so we all have those folks that we look up to. And they are all in all facets of life, right? Whether it be celebrities. I can tell you one character that I look up to is Angelina Jolie for her humanitarian work, right? And so there's these pockets of folks you have, but did I really start calling them mentors? No. And I think when I graduated and started my work with Microsoft Canada, and that was a fresh new grad, I had a really great manager who, again, in the first couple of years, started doing mentoring with me as part of his regular natural job. Career development was sort of one of those things. And I would say he formally introduced the idea to me. I said, hey, I'm interested in many different roles. What do you think? And he said, well, go out and talk to those people. Have you spoken to the person who's currently doing that role? Do you know what their day-to-day looks like? And I get that you interact with them as part of a virtual team. You might kind of have a sense of what it is, but go set up a coffee chat and talk to them about, what is it that they do? What do they like? What do they don't like? And start doing that. And so I would say, born was the formal idea of a mentorship, and what it means. And I think the pivotal role it provided then in my career, at least early on, is helping me realize what is of interest to me. And then I think as that evolved and I knew what was interesting to me, I think the other role mentors have played, including managers will interchange as mentors, is really kind of highlighting my untapped potential. Things they saw in me that I wasn't seeing inside me yet. And they kind of said, have you considered this? Or have you taken a look at that? Right. And really highlighting those and then helping me self-reflect, inflect on that, and come back and kind of continue that journey with them. That's the way I'd kind of put mentorship in a nutshell.
I love that. I love how you sort of go back to almost like when you really think about it, grade 9 or 10, that was actually sort of when that kind of happened. And also how great that you had such a wonderful first manager to sort of really set you up for success and to be curious. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. Pradeepa, I want to ask you now, so you, with regards to sort of the locale mentorship, so Noreen was your mentor. So this is sort of on the spot in front of everyone asking how has your relationship with Noreen helped kind of guide you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited and grateful to be here. And big shout out to Locelle, Humaira, and her team for what they bring to this world. Short answer, simple answer, it was fantastic. Naureen is amazing. We've had a lot of meaningful interactions. And now I'll expand. We share a lot of things, what's going on, and she listens. She's helped me get more confident and helped me be able to process and think about how to lead. So one of the main reasons I was looking for mentorship outside my company was to get external perspectives. I really wanted to network with someone and look out for new ways to improve team processes and help evaluate trade-offs early and see if I was in the right direction. I was also curious to know what's happening in the industry, in the market, because it's like internally you are like just with your team, your folks that you always mingle with. So she always listened to me, helped unpack some of the challenges and helped me to see them through a different lens. I remember our first meeting where we were pretty much like, so aligned. We spoke about our culture and specifically as South Asian women, how we are like, you want to know or be that know-it-all visionary. And when something doesn't work out that way, like your imposter just pops out and say, oh, you're doing a bad job. So I've had great learnings. One or two examples I could share here is like, I was working on creating a production support policy, and I did my research and crafted like a 10-pager document on the process, how we manage the incidents, how we should be working with SLAs and so on. And I went to Naureen for feedback in one of our sessions. And she gave me great advice to, first keep it simple and not complicated. And, don't think like an enterprisey model, because like it was for a smaller team. And so we have to like scope out some of that stuff. So that was a great piece of advice. I just shortened that and kept it simple with just the expectations. What are the systems we are going to support and like some of the SLA pieces. And that's all we needed for the first version. It was great advice. I rolled that out for my team and they received it very well, and it was simple to implement. And similarly, like we had to hire for a new stack specific to data engineering. And I was looking for some advice on what specific skills and competencies, like interview processes and such, we need to focus on when it comes to hiring, because we haven't hired for such a role. And Naureen was very thoughtful. She shared good piece of advice, like when it comes to, different roles from architecture, platform engineering, and strategy. So it was easy for me to like connect the dots and figure out like what I really need in order to look for this role. So all this was super helpful. Outcomes, I was able to like create value, build confidence, set up a pipeline for the stack that we've never hired before. And we became like, we were successful with that. So it was fantastic.
That's so great. So wonderful. Really, really appreciate that perspective. And we'll get into sort of discussing a little bit later around, as you said, sort of you touched upon kind of an external voice and having that. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Noreen, so tell me, what do you think some of the key things that make up a mentorship relationship successful, sort of as both a kind of a mentor and mentee? Can you share some of that insight?
For sure. Yeah. And it's humbling to hear, by the way, some of the things that Pradeepa is sharing and her success. And so I'd say right at the gate, the reason I do mentoring is it's just very personally gratifying to have that impact. It's kind of like when you see your children or your child or your team do well, it's the same thing for a mentor with a mentee relationship. I think what can really help mentoring and mentee relationships really well is it is a two-way. So, and I think Locelle touched on that in, what mentorship is all about. And one of the things you actually get is it's something in it for the mentor as well. So as I was working with Pradeepa, I call it a reverse mentoring. It was an opportunity for me to see what coaching another woman in IT looks like, even though I've kind of been through the same challenges myself. We're all different. We all have different journeys. We're all going through different roles and organizations. So you can't put that blinder on that everybody's going through the same experience. So one, it actually continues to add to your own diversity as a mentor. I think that's what you get out of it. You can certainly have other takeaways. Maybe you're trying to be a better leader. Maybe you have hiring decisions to be made. And so you can understand what it is that boggles or bothers or is top of mind for young, diverse talent out there to be able to better cater to it. So I think those are some key things that mentors can get out of it. And then others you can kind of evolve and find out depending on who you got connected with as a mentee. For the mentee, I think a couple of things are really, really important. So in the world where time is just crunched, we're getting busier than as ever. We're fully digital. So now we're able to put in more, whether it's stuffing a call into our commute, whether it is, like you just, there's no second where you don't find what to do yourself with, like what to do with yourself. And so with that, I would urge mentees to think about intentionality. Connecting with folks for an initial coffee chat sometimes is okay. If you read that person is, you have a personal relationship or they offer up a coffee chat and are willing to explore, what you will find as you target particular leaders is they're crammed with their time. So kind of really having that empathetic ground to, asking yourself the questions, why am I reaching out to this person? Why do I really want a mentorship relationship? What is it about them? When you ask yourself those questions, you will, as a mentee, get really good ideas on, okay, out of this relationship, or if I were to just have one coffee chat, what it is that I would want to ask them. It's not like you need to have an elevator pitch on yourself, but really the inverse. What is it that you would like to add to your elevator pitch after your conversations and relationship with this mentor? Right? So think about that top line and a couple of deeper questions. And I think Pradeepa and I did that in our first meeting. I think we opened with, Pradeepa, what are your goals? At the end of this relationship, we're going to be talking to each other for a couple of months, I think every 2 weeks. What is it that you would really like to take away? We had sort of holistic goals, and then we broke it down to, okay, what do you want to do for this month and next month, and so on and so forth. It might seem really business rhythmic, and sometimes we were agile and we changed those goals and we went different directions if there was something else that was more important to her that popped up that she could use assistance for. But I think that is the number one key, because just going for a chat to explore how you might work with that person works now and then. Could work for folks that are early into offering their time to become mentors, but the more seasoned mentors, they really want to have impact, they want to help, and they like mentees who come very intentional. I can't emphasize that enough. Maybe I can offer up one last thing, and it's because I was speaking to my earlier career journey when I didn't know what a mentor is, I didn't know who to look for, and so you don't always have to have this is what I exactly want out of it. So but even that is your crux of your problem. So that was my problem statement when I went to my manager early on. I said, well, I don't know what I want to focus on. I don't know which career is right for me. And at that point, and then he pointed me to, okay, well, why don't you go speak to certain people and explore the different roles? And that became okay, now I know when I go have a mentoring relationship with this person in that role, I'm actually just focusing on asking them about that role. That idea didn't come to me right away. And folks might be on different journeys. Maybe I was just a naive mentee, but that's okay. Like if you don't know exactly what you want out of that relationship, but ask, like there is something that's making you gravitate and want to go talk to that person and really search deep within what is that, because they will really appreciate you coming in with a sort of pointed direction that you're looking for.
Really, really appreciate that. Noreen, and I will even also add what I find too sometimes as a mentor, I want to be able to do a bit of research on a topic, right? So sometimes if my mentee comes to me and has a topic, I want to be able to kind of come maybe with some articles, some stats, maybe I've checked in with a few other people as well to sort of help support. So that's
it helps us prepare better.
Yeah. So that we use the time kind of wisely. I also feel like sometimes it is nice to just have a general chat, right? Like it is to build that sort of network and that sort of connection as well. But yeah, when you want to get down to some of those details, to be really intentional, really like that.
And absolutely, I think our first chat with Pradeepa was very exploratory. It was kind of like, what do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this? Why are we even talking? Right? It's kind of like that.
Yeah, great. Okay, so Pradeepa, coming back to you, and I do see a question in the chat we'll get to in just a couple minutes, just to giving you the heads up. Noreen will be coming back to you on that one, it looks like. Pradeepa, so talking about differences between sort of internal versus external, mentorship. Have you had internal mentorship before as well? What's your thought, pros, cons, all of your wisdom on internal versus external mentorship, please. Over to you.
Sure. So similar to Naureen, like we didn't have mentor as an assigned role, but you had managers, you had coaches who were helping you internally. So at least from my perspective, internal mentors or internal people that you get to connect with have more relevant day-to-day context for on-the-job learning and application. So they'll be familiar with the company's culture, policies, processes, and whatnot. They are going to hopefully have a good idea of what will help someone to be successful inside the company. And they could potentially help, remove barriers to growth and make connections internally. But when it comes to external mentorship, I think key difference that pops to my mind is that broader, more diverse view or approach to challenges, like greater anonymity and access to a broader network, right? You have a broader perspective on industry trends and best practices, what has worked for them in the past. You get to learn and make those connections and learning valuable, and you try to like translate and see how it could work for your system. So that's what I think is the biggest difference and more valuable difference that could make an impact.
Great. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Okay, Noreen, over to you. And now so there was a question in the chat. How did mentorship help build confidence and self-branding?
For sure. Yeah, definitely agree with, first of all, I'll say it's a bit of a loaded question that mentorship can help build confidence. And sorry, what was the other aspect?
Confidence and self-branding. So maybe
Yeah, perfect. That makes sense. And then, yes, I would say absolutely I agree with that. How it helped is, I think going back to my first point, in terms of the confidence when mentors and multiple mentors, not just one or just my immediate manager or people that I were working with, and even colleagues, perhaps they weren't mentors, but they were collaborators, echoed things that the mentor kind of puts the idea of this is an untapped potential. Have you ever considered the fact that you're good with people? You could go into sales roles, you could go into strategy roles, or you could go into roles that require a cross-functional group orchestration. When they kind of brought that up, these are terms now I'm kind of sharing very comfortable that and call them tenets of sort of my branding. That is what I stand for. If you ask someone who Noreen is, she's great with people. She's master orchestrator across complexity, makes things simple. But these are self-branding points that I kind of came to realize, right? So I didn't kind of land day one into the working force at a university and said, here's my brand and here's who I am. So I think definitely mentors, but I think I would add and extend collaborators as well. Team and folks that you work with, they sometimes also provide a bit of a mentorship. One, generally, if you're, again, early in career, you're trying to work with a senior person, you are learning and picking up things, they're kind of coaching, and you're learning and picking up their ways of working. And that also kind of assimilates and becomes a part of your brand. And then they actually help and say, hey, have you considered this? Like they give you feedback that ends up being sort of that loop back into, okay, this is what I do well. And then you hear it, and I would say this is probably different for everybody, but you hear it a couple of different times to realize and reassure yourself, okay, I do perform at that level. That is something that not one person, but a few folks have mentioned. Perhaps that's something that's great that I stand for, and I should start talking about it more as my brand and adopt it and realize after you agree with that statement or feedback, right? So that's one part of it. I think the other piece on was confidence building. I'd say it's sort of both actually. So having diverse mentors as well. It's often easy for women to just gravitate and want to talk to other women. But I would say early in my career, at least reflecting back on my journey, I had a lot of men mentors. And at one point in my life, I think when I was getting ready and wanted to be a mom, I was going to, believe it or not, a couple of job interviews opening with, hey, I'm planning to have a baby. Just wanted to let you know. And I don't want you to feel like I start the job and I might run off, but I don't know when it'll happen. And one of my mentors pulled me aside, male mentors, and they said, why do you self-announce that? I was like, well, because I feel like I might, it's a bad thing. I'm gonna let people down. And they're like, first of all, no one just has a baby like a free puppy. Like, you're not just gonna have a baby for the sake of screwing a company. You're doing family planning. Okay, calm down. Right? And it's the funniest, best advice ever. But they were like, I don't think that is necessary to share, Noreen. Men and women alike, and it's the inverse is true for men. First of all, they have to go through a journey where it's okay for them to take time off for family, right? Where it's only acceptable for women. So I think again that diversity of thought and just different challenges, different genders and diverse groups go through. So the confidence building was actually some of the tweaking in the language I use, how I represent myself, what it's okay to pitch myself to. I know the number one stat we kind of hear sometimes is women often for a job posting will only go for it when they feel like they've got 60 to 70% of that. And men will kind of jump in even if they've got 30 to 40. Maybe perhaps being in engineering school, I washed that thought out of my brain. So it's my approach to that. And perhaps the mentors have also kind of helped always with that, is really, if I know 70% of something, it's not interesting. Why the heck would I want to go try it? Right. So the way I think about it is, if I know only 30% of it, well, now the opportunity is exciting. I want to go learn. And a lot of mentors have helped, again, build that confidence that it's okay to go for things where you have some transferable skills and the rest you're going to pick up and learn on the job. So your transferable skills might want to hit the prominent requirements. And that is the self-branding and confidence that I think many, many mentors have really helped me do. So hope that helps, Stephanie.
Yeah, I think, well, and I feel like for the person, did that, I think that really did. And I think I do want to touch upon that sort of that comment around sort of announcing that you're going to have children. Right. I'm pretty sure no man has gone into an interview and not that I want to, when I say this, I am not pitting sort of those that identify as men and those that identify as women against each other. But I'm pretty sure if I were to talk to my husband, Alex, when we were planning family planning, it wasn't like, he's like, hey, just so you know, we're going to have a baby, but you're right. I think for women, it really does. And I do also think, unfortunately, depending upon some organizations, they are concerned about that. That's that sort of that bias that, how old are you? That kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That unconscious bias that comes into play. Like we can't ignore that, right?
Yeah, it's a huge biological difference. It is what it
That's
is.
right. That's right. And that feeling and the whole sort of implications of having maternity leave and coming back and sort of your career projection. I feel like I could spend the next 90 minutes chatting about this topic and would love to one time, Humaira, but like it really is that sort of difference between men and women and taking that maternity leave. And it's like, we're contributing actually to society, to keep society going. So I think we need to sort of make sure that that we look at that as great. Enjoy not enjoy your time off because it's definitely not a holiday, but, take your time with your child and come back. And we're so excited to have you back when you come back. Okay?
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think the key takeaway there would be is if you have, and maybe you don't know what your blind spot or what such comments are you making, but if you're trying to build confidence, maybe litmus test your branding with your mentors, your mentoring network, and that could help, come out with these sort of coaches, don't say this, or, it's better to represent it this way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Pradeepa, did you want to add? Yeah, did you want to add to that? Yeah, please.
And on top of that, that resonated with me, Stephanie, is like when Noreen was mentioning how women tend to go for 60 to 70%, like checking all the boxes. Like as a hiring manager myself, I've seen so many women, like they apply only if they check each and every box, like 100% in the job description, versus when like men apply. Most of the engineers who apply are like, unfortunately men, but they are like 40 to 50%, hey, I have just worked in front end and this is a full stack position, but still I wanted to apply. And that's the courage and that's what we are looking for, right? So especially as a hiring manager, when you're talking to women who are like, who do not pass all that anxiety test or all those qualifications, it's okay. Like we are going to immediately connect and see, okay, maybe this person would be a good fit for another project that we have. Maybe this person could be a backfill for this position. So it's always like taking that chance, having that confidence that you don't have to like qualify and check all the boxes and just go ahead, take that chance, be courageous and apply for any job for that matter. Just trust your instinct, your skills, that matters.
That is a great takeaway. So I'm going to stop and recap. The takeaway is if the job looks interesting, apply for it, please. Please apply for it. Okay. And then get some additional support from a mentor to help you, because I always think those skills, the majority of the time can be sort of, you can find a way to find an example, and whether that's, maybe not in your current job, but it could be volunteering or other things that you've done to sort of show that you've actually done it. I mean, going back to, I swear, after I came back from having a child and being able to work and have a little one, I thought, oh my gosh, I could become a CEO. This is easy now. This is like my efficiency level just went through the roof when I was like, do we have 10 minutes? What do you need? In 10 minutes, I can get this done for you. And let's move on. Okay, great. Right. And I'm sure a lot of parents are probably nodding. Okay. Now, all right. So over to, I think, Pradeepa, we're going to bring it over to you. We've got some sort of additional questions, and this one, when I was looking through, was really interesting. What not to do when engaging with a mentor as part of your learning journey? Do you have anything that you would suggest sort of not to do, Pradeepa?
Yeah, for sure. First, do not come to the session if you aren't prepared. Like you as a mentee should be setting the agenda. Like do enough prep work to briefly explain why you are looking for guidance, right? Like the first session that myself and like Naureen and I had, set an agenda, be specific, like pick and prioritize 2 to 3 questions or one topic that you want to deep dive into. One of the best ways to get a lot of value is to present something specific for them to help you solve, because they're not going to solve for you. They are going to help you solve it. Again, you're not looking for solutions from them, but looking for advice, hearing their experience and finding a path to that solution. So you should never be sitting there thinking, gosh, like, what should I be talking about? Like, what should we, progress with? So I think like you should be specific, go with an agenda. And another thing is like being passive. It is important to take an active role in your learning journey. You have to take accountability of your growth, right? So ask those thoughtful questions, even like if you're not familiar with any topic, or like Naureen mentioned, you may not even know what you want to do next. Just like, keep asking, like ask, like seeking out for those opportunities for growth and taking action on the feedback and advice you receive is really, really important. And again, just don't focus on your interest. Don't be hesitant to ask about your mentor's goals as well, right? Like I was very interested to know how Naureen grew in her career, like what's going on with their work, what are like, some of their objectives, what needs to happen for them to accomplish these tasks. Is there anything that you can do to help them? So it should be like two-way and not just like one way, or how we how traditional mentorship models used to work. So and one last thing is, do not try to be someone else. Be authentic, be vulnerable and transparent. Like it's all about being a continuous learner and being willing to be vulnerable and help someone mentor you. So you are not going to look for solutions. You're going to look for the experiences, the wisdom that they can share, and put that into practice.
Really, really great point there. And about that sort of, it's an interesting sort of dynamic when you talk about that being vulnerable piece, because I think that also potentially comes with a bit of wisdom and skill. I have to admit, when I was first early on my career, the discussion of sort of failure, I was like, it's not going to happen. Now, later on in my career, I'm like, yeah, I fail and we move forward, and nothing potentially catastrophic happens, right? But I feel like that's sort of with wisdom, that, yeah. Noreen, do you have anything to add of the sort of the what not to do?
I think those are all perfect, the way Pradeepa is framed it. I think the one I would like to emphasize is really her point about you're not coming to a mentoring relationship to get solutions. So I love that, because it might sound like common sense, it might sound like a light statement, but really sit there and think about that for a second. I.e., this is not a friend that you're going to and saying, hey, I have this, what should I do? You're actually going with, well, I'm thinking about doing this or this. Could you walk me through the pros and cons of that? So really it's to help you work through, and a good mentor, I'll kind of put accountability back on mentors as well. They'll kind of pick through that. Sometimes if a mentee is trying to look for an answer, they'll make the mentee reflect and say, well, what do you really want out of here? And they'll kind of shift into coaching mode versus solutioning. But really a mentor isn't there to solution things. It's to help you work through your own challenges, and you're most empowered that way, right? Because if I give you the answer, you take it, mindlessly plug it into whatever it is that you were tackling, and you have learned nothing out of it, maybe something by doing the plugging. But when you own that journey, when you own how you're going to solve it, you bring to table the ideas and just kind of look for how do I test them better. That really helps you grow as a person. So I think that thing that she said is don't look for solutions is like a biggest not to do.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Great. We do have another question. Someone saying your comment on not having blinders on is so important. Thank you, Noreen, for that one. Overall question to the panel. What do you do if someone mentors you, but they make unempathetic comments where they've got their blinders on, or they say, something unintentionally? How would you approach that situation?
Yeah, Pradeepa, did you want me to start? What do you want to do?
Yeah, sure, Noreen.
Okay. I would say, and again, it sounds like an unfortunate experience. So first of all, empathizing with that, it doesn't sound too great of an experience. I think there's sort of two things there. One, is this mentor open or familiar with the concept of reverse mentoring? Because it sounds like it's an opportunity for that mentor to be, but again, you need them to be open to it, right? The second one, depending on the situation and how grave it is really reevaluate your mentorship relationship. If you are not getting somebody who is being empathetic to the situation, and that is what you really wanted out of that mentoring relationship, maybe time to cut it loose and go to another place. It might sound very black and white, but just without knowing more context, that's sort of the two things that come to my mind.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that, Noreen. You just have to set and have those clear agreements at the very beginning. That's why, your first session, when you are building or bonding, that's important for you to clear out and set those agreements. Deliberately discuss expectations and what mentee and the mentor expect from this process. Empathy is something that is built within you. Someone can't coach you specifically to be empathetic. It has to come naturally to you, and you can build on that. So I think setting those clear agreements is really important. And usually mentorship conversations fall into three categories. One, it's going to be about goals, figuring out what you really want. Telling someone what they should want isn't as powerful as helping them discover it for themselves, right? So that's why goals are most meaningful when they are deeply understood. The second bucket or the approach is situation specific, handling the unfamiliar or difficult. So that is what I think you're going through. It's an unfamiliar situation. When you're facing such a situation, it's important to create a safe and supportive environment. So that's why I touch based on being vulnerable, transparent, which can help foster trust and build good relationship. It's not a weakness, right? You have to build that trust. It encourages both people to share their challenges, historical and current. It makes everyone human, emphasizes what is shared in common, and is more bi-directional. It also breaks down what might be an intimidating power dynamic and makes you feel more comfortable as peers. So that is why when you're facing or you are in a situation specific bucket, you have to think through and see how you want to establish that relationship. And the final bucket is specific to skills. Like if you want to go to the next level, if you are planning to like have some career direction, you should direct your conversations or questions related to that. So I think like, I empathize with you, but try to make, these clear agreements, be transparent, be open about how you're feeling. That is very, very important.
I really like, both of those suggestions, and it really does come, I mean, when unfortunately, if you've ever been in sort of that situation without sort of having the agreements, it's that moment of, do you trust the other person that you can share and be like, hey, that's not okay, or that wasn't appropriate, or I don't really think you mean it this way, you might mean it this way. And you can almost tell from the mentor's sort of posture, are they open to that feedback? And then I honestly sort of feel like at the end of the day, if they're not, or they're defensive, then you may need to sort of dissolve the sort of the mentorship relationship, and that's okay. And that's one of the interesting pieces that sort of, I feel like one of the things I didn't do when I was younger is around this sort of the statement that I make with all of my mentees is that if it's not working for you, there's no pressure to continue, because it's not. But I remember feeling as a mentee with my mentor, I was like, gosh, I feel really awkward. I don't want to say anything. And so I don't know, Noreen or Pradeepa, if that's kind of, ever happened with you at all, in some of your sort of mentoring relationships.
Yeah, I think if I reflect back to a few of mine, I have sat, like, for instance, I think I had once a month meetup or once a quarter. But after I got what I wanted, while I was hesitant, I actually kind of, and maybe one thing that's going for all of us, if you're women in tech or diverse groups in tech, is everybody's really busy. So if you give someone time back, there's going to be no objections. So if there's one thing that could be comforting, maybe to end that relationship, is just say, hey, thank you very much. This has been rewarding. Would you be okay if we discontinue this? Is there anything else that you wanted for us to continue, right? And again, like if that's the turn that you're taking where that relationship isn't really important to you, the other person would appreciate it. Again, hopefully if they're a growth minded person, they're going to ask for feedback, because I think one of the things we had, Pradeepa and I had, when we were sort of entering our mentoring relationship is, Pradeepa, what could I do better as a mentor? Please tell me. I really wanted to hear that. But again, it doesn't sound like this. In this case, the mentor is open to that, right? So situationally different.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a question that I've, as you've been chatting and thinking about, is there ever the possibility to have too many mentors, in your life? Obviously, I'm asking because I've got sort of a comment about it, but I'm curious in the panel here, Noreen or Pradeepa.
Like, again, I would not coin it as too many mentors, like, because you get the opportunity to learn with so many people around you, right? Like,
yeah.
You could coin it coaching, management, like mentorship. So it's like every phase, it's really important to have a mentor. It could be, but the earlier, the better. So I think it's more about like the people that you get to learn with. And like mentor is specifically when you're looking for some direction and advice and experience, that's when you go to them. So I feel like it's like on a broader perspective.
Yeah, totally. Noreen.
I mean, I would add, as long as the purposes are different, you have a mentoring relationship for XYZ, the specific topics, it's okay. You don't have too many. If you're resorting and finding yourself having a few different mentors for the same thing, ask yourself, are you doing a get a doctor's second opinion exercise here? What is it? Right? Or are you, again, at that inflection point where you're not getting something from the one mentor on that topic, so you have started to look for another mentor for that same topic? So good inflection points exercise if you find yourself seeking different mentors for the same topic, right?
Very good point.
And again, it could be very intentional, like depending on the topic, because mentorships could be so broad. If it is something you want a diverse perspective, then that's okay too. Like maybe it's a special project where you actually want a mentor that is one group versus another group, and you want different people to provide that input. And so if it's intentional, that's okay too. It really is an it depends answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I like your point around are you sort of getting asking the same type of mentors? And I feel like earlier on in my career, I was kind of doing that to the point I was like, I feel like I'm being over mentored here on the same topic. And it was sort of like a learning around this. We have just a couple moments left. Is there anything, we'll start with you, Pradeepa, is there any other sort of wisdom, advice, things that you want to kind of share or something that we haven't covered? And then I'm going to hand it over to you, Noreen.
Sure. Like I said earlier, mentorship could be one of the solutions to empower more women into leadership. Like more representation will encourage more women to stay in tech and advance to more senior position and help put more inclusive goals and strategies in place at your company, right? Like you have to make that change. You have to be that voice. Like you can inspire more women to follow you. That's how I got inspired, like with my managers, with the women leaders I worked with. I wanted to influence, I wanted to like bring more women and attract them into tech. Like it's good, it's rewarding to see how like, you know, people and women are now getting more interest and attracted to STEM, but I think like we have a long way to go. So definitely I believe like having a mentor can be incredibly beneficial for anyone at any point in time. Like especially when you're young, starting your career, you will get the right advocacy, good career guidance, and of course, networking that is absolutely worth it. And it will definitely help to build that confidence and self-efficacy.
That's great. Noreen, over to you.
Thank you. I think for mentors and mentees alike, one, continue doing it as Pradeepa is saying it, be very intentional about it. What I would say is if you are part of organizations, it's both ways. Like be offered to be a mentor, join an employee or a business resource group that advocates for diverse hiring. So for companies, really, it's at the end of the day, like continue hiring, developing, supporting women and diverse groups to continue to level up in their careers. Like that's absolutely, like there's no questions. But when we peel that underneath and say, well, what does that really mean? It means one, you need to hire. And if your default answer is, well, the pipeline doesn't have enough diverse candidates, I would encourage you to take away it. You're looking for them there because they're out there. You're just not looking for them in the right way. So that would be sort of one piece of takeaway. And then I would say is even if you don't have diverse groups in leadership, but you, let's say, have junior staff, out of school staff, that actually happens to represent these diverse groups, create that as your mini focus group. If you want to be an ally to this group, create them as a focus group, get their points of view on, hey, one, I can coach one of you and, you know, into leadership, but two, I actually have business needs now. I can't just promote you there tomorrow, but I need to go out and hire folks that are from your group of community. What is it that I need to do to attract that kind of talent? And they will be very informative in helping you do things differently. And you're just thinking by putting out a job posting, why aren't they applying? But this focus group can help you on what you need to tweak in your searching process to really get those candidates through the pipeline.
So great, great advice. We have come to the end. You know, I think this is probably my maybe third or fourth time hosting. And every time I'm like, oh, we don't have enough questions. And then we just get into it. And I'm like, Humaira, we need an extra hour that we don't have in our day. Can you work on that? So really, Noreen and Pradeepa and all of the audience and the questions, so grateful that you sort of spent your hour with us. You know, we know how busy everyone is and really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you. And I will hand it over back to you, Humaira.
Thank you so much. This was so insightful. I've made a lot of notes. I'm going to be going back to the recording to really dig into some of those. Really some unique perspective that, you know I have gained from this webinar, and I'm sure others have too. And actually, one of the comments here that I do want to share is that this is one of the best webinars that they've been to with regards to mentorship. So it's only possible because of you. So thank you so much. And we will be sending the recording to everybody who registered for this, because I know some people joined late, some people have missed it. And I just have this little kind of special gift for some of the audience members here, especially for BIPOC folks or transgender who are looking for a mentor. So we partnered with Scotiabank this year to support some of you. So if you are interested in participating in our mentorship program, which is more formal, a bit structured, to help you make sure that you have a successful journey, please use this QR code. I'm also going to see if I can add into the chat here to share the link. Perhaps Elizabeth, if you can drop that here, that would be great. So please apply. We will be selecting 5 people to provide a full mentorship cohort. So again, thanks to Scotiabank for making it happen. We turned 5, and that's why we've chosen 5. You know, we want to do more, and just keep your eyes peeled on that. We do have more opportunities coming up for folks who are from underrepresented groups. Sometimes, you know, you may not have the budget, your company may not have the budget. So we are looking for those partnerships to help make the impact even bigger. With that said, we are coming up to an end, or we are at the end here. So yeah, please, if you have any questions, let us know. Our email is hello@locelle.com. Go to our website. We're very accessible, approachable. But again, the biggest thank you to all of you, Steph, Noreen, Pradeepa. This would not have been possible without you. And with all the questions and engagement, we know there's a lot of curiosity. A lot of people want to learn and grow and take charge of their careers, and mentorship is just one great way to help you. So again, thank you so much. I'm just going to look at this one last. Yes, Elizabeth, so that's great. Yeah, please apply. We do want to support you and support as many. And if you don't want to apply, or if you can nominate someone, that's even better. So yeah, we would love to support as many of you as possible. Thank you again. Thank you for spending this hour with us. I hope this was valuable, and we'll be back hopefully sooner than later. Thank you all.